Hi, everyone. Welcome to our session today. I'm super excited about our presenter today. She's presented for us before, and I'm so glad that she has chosen to come back and be with us again. Laura Reyes has been teaching early childhood education courses with Ashford University, now UAGC, for the past 12 years. She currently teaches kindergarten in Southern California. She enjoys the juxtaposition of these two roles. UAGC offers her continual professional development and timely research that she brings to her kindergarten classroom, while her classroom experience over the past 30 years brings a dose of reality and often humor to her college students, which is very true, and we have to be like that. Laura is honored and humbled to have been chosen as one of the 5 San Diego County Teachers of the Year for 21-22 school year, which is amazing. She attributes this honor to her relentless efforts to connect with families, especially those who have use of video to highlight curricular goals of student achievement. Her videos have won city, county, and statewide competitions and are a testament to the many hours she devotes to creating lasting memories for her students. I love that. And hopefully you can talk to us just a little bit about that, because that's so cool. Thank you. And thank you so much for all of the work you do with families, the community, and your students. Thank you.
You're very welcome.
Okay, next slide, please. Okay, this is just a disclaimer that says an online degree from UAGC does not lead to immediate teacher licensure, so you will need to go back to your individual states and become certified and licensed. Next slide, please. This is also just a disclaimer that says UAGC provides no links in this webinar, no websites, no pictures, and they do not warrant or endorse anything in this presentation. So Laura, super excited. You always have a wonderful presentation. The floor is yours.
Thank you so much. I'm so happy to be with everyone. So this is a little bit about what we're going to do today. My topic is weaving diversity throughout the curriculum. So we'll start with just a little bit about who I am. Dr. Shipley did a great job in her introduction. And then why the topic of diversity? We hear it on the news all the time. Why is it important in early childhood education? And then I'm going to give you 3 activities that I've used in my classroom successfully, and you're welcome to take them as they are or adapt them to your own needs. Hopefully there'll be things that you can use right away. I know I've gone to conferences in the past and I think, oh, that's a great idea, and I'll tuck it away and then time goes by. So these should be really easy to implement for you. So who am I? Yes, I'm all of these things. As Dr. Shipley mentioned, wife, I'm a mom of 5 kids from 33 to 18. Our last just graduated. And my kids have really been not only my inspiration, they've been my testers. They, when you have children, they come to school with you and collate and prepare and test out your lessons. So they have been also the ears that listen to my complaints about difficult students and demanding principals and piles of work that I bring home. My husband always says, you just got home and you're already sitting at the computer. So yes, we've been married 35 years and he's listened to it all too. As a parent educator, I've had the great opportunity to work with our youngest learners from 0 to 3 and their parents, getting them ready and prepared for success in the classroom as well. I was also district liaison for foster youth and homeless children. So that gave me a different perspective of what foster parents go through and having to support that special relationship. And then that led me to actually being a coach for foster youth parents and leading them and walking alongside them through very challenging situations most times. I'm also a whole brain, I do use my whole brain most of the time, a whole brain teacher's silver certified educator. And I've done a presentation on that if you're interested. I'm sure it's in the archives somewhere. And as Dr. Shipley said, also this year, my reign is ending as one of the 5 San Diego County Teachers of the Year, but looking forward to more excitement. They have a whole bunch of things scheduled for us. So exciting times ahead. And as you can see by the pictures, you know, if you've been in the classroom, you are a performing. Education is a performing art. We are always dressing up on the go. Here, I'm a 100-year-old lady in the bottom corner, but we have to keep the children's attention. We're competing with video games and lights and whistles and buzzers and poppets. So, you know, we need to be on all the time for them. So let's talk about the importance of diversity. We hear about it, like I said, on the news all the time. The Oxford Dictionary defines diversity as the state of being diverse. Don't you love it when we tell our students, don't use the same word in your definition. The state of being diverse, variety. A secondary definition states the practice or quality of including or involving people from a range of different social and ethnic backgrounds and of different genders, sexual orientations, etc. I don't know about you, but this definition seems to contradict the currently held definition of diversity, which seems to be divisive and exclusive. I like Oxford's definition because I like to accentuate how we are the same rather than how we are different. I like to observe how our diversity can complement rather than divide us. And I'm going to read this because it's a position statement from April 2019 from the National Association for the Education of Young Children, or as we know, NAEYC, provides a guideline for advancing equity in early childhood education. Quote, all children have the right to equitable learning opportunities that help them achieve their full potential as engaged learners and valued members of society. Thus, all early childhood educators have a professional obligation to advance equity. They can do this best when they are effectively supported by the early learning settings in which they work, and when their wider communities embrace diversity and full inclusion as strengths, uphold fundamental principles of fairness and justice, and work to eliminate structural inequities that limit equitable learning opportunities. There's so much in that sentence, right? The idea of our responsibility, our obligation, but also to raise up children who have an awareness of diversity and their fellow man. So when I began looking through the NAEYC website to prepare for this presentation, they had several pages on recommendations for early childhood centers. They had a list of recommendations for directors. They had a list of recommendations for family home childcare. And they were all they were comparable with slight variations, but the one I thought we could all use is the recommendations for everyone. So again, here I'm going to read from the NAEYC website and interject some of my own personal takes on these. So number one, build awareness and understanding of your culture, personal beliefs, values, and biases. I'm just overwhelmed when I read these and just step back and really have a chance to reflect. I probably will just type these out and have them sitting in my classroom above my desk because I had not really read these before this presentation. We have to recognize that everyone holds some type of bias. Really, honestly, people will say, no, I'm not biased. But when you really, really start to become aware, you will notice that you have biases. And not all biases are negative, by the way. Just based on our backgrounds and our experiences, even if you think you're not biased, reflect on the impact that racism, sexism, xenophobia, and other systems of oppression have affected you and the people around you. Identify where your varied social identities have provided strengths and understandings based on your experiences of both injustice and privilege. I remember a conversation I had with a colleague who had an older sibling in her class, and I had the younger sibling. And she came up to me one day and admitted, and saying very quietly and with embarrassment, I thought that she would be better in math because, you know, they're Asian. And she knew right away that what she was saying was going to come out wrong. She apologized profusely, but we've all had that experience. We've all heard it, right? And whether we embrace it or not, that's a personal choice. But she caught herself. And it was interesting because I was having the same thought about the child in my class. There was an expectation that because they were Asian, they should have been good in math. And actually, I've had 4 of the children and none of them are gifted math students. That's okay, right? But it's a bias that has been created in our society. And like I said, you can embrace it or you can catch yourself and say, wait a minute, let me stop and think about this. So I know in my classroom, I actually have a bias when it comes to testing. I think I'm very ethical when it comes to assessing students, but I have caught myself on occasion allowing more time for a student that I know knows the answer. That child probably is in my highest reading group. I know she knows this. I might give a little more time. Whereas the student who's been in my bottom reading group really has not made much progress all year. I get to the same question, I'm just going to move on because he probably doesn't know it, right? That is bias, isn't it? And like I said, number 1, build that awareness. That is just critical. Number 2, recognize the power and benefits of diversity and inclusivity. Carefully observe and listen to others, especially children, right? They're so wise. Children can say so many wise things in their innocence. One of my students a couple of weeks ago, out of the blue, randomly asked me who I voted for president. And I was so shocked by the question. And yet I was really glad that his parents were having this conversation with him. And so I gave him an answer. It was minimally political and rather vague, but I answered him and he was satisfied with the answer. He was obviously trying to get a sense of, he was trying to build a relationship with me actually, because he's a rather difficult student. So I was really happy to meet him where he was and answer in a non-biased way, right? Number 3, take responsibility for biased actions, even if unintended, and actively working to repair the harm. It's really hard to say, I'm sorry. It's really hard to admit that you went too far with something. And it's really hard to take a stand, especially in a public arena. Several years ago, there was a colleague on our campus who was blatantly shaming another colleague for her weight. And it was relentless. It was incessant. And all of us, me included, had turned a blind eye because this teacher just had gotten away with it for so long. And I one day decided I had had enough and I took a stand. It cost me dearly. But I did come forward and make a formal complaint against the teacher because what she was doing was not right. It wasn't responsible and it was divisive. It was divisive as a staff. And actually that division still exists on our campus. Number 4, and my picture's in the way, so I can't read all of it. Let me move this. Acknowledge and seek to understand structural inequities and their impact over time. Take action when outcomes vary significantly by social identities. And here we're talking about lopsided test scores. We've noticed, the research shows us, for example, African American boys and Latino boys score lower. We've got to get to the answer. Why is that happening? Why are suspensions greater with certain populations? And expulsions, the same thing. In our school district, we are warned over and over again to stop referring so many Hispanic students for special education testing. Here, I'm claiming outright bias because our school district is made up of 80 to 90% Hispanic students. So to me, it makes sense that we would be referring a higher percentage of Hispanic students. And yet, when we make those referrals, the paperwork is thrown back at our face saying, no, that's another African-American student, which in our school district, I think it's 1%. Well, it sort of makes sense, doesn't it? If there's one child of African-American descent who needs special help, I'm not going to ignore that child because of the color of his skin. See, you can hear me getting a little upset here. So moving on, number 5, view your commitment to cultural responsiveness as an ongoing process. Yeah, it's not a one-time matter of mastering knowledge and reading a book, taking a class. When I went to teacher school, there wasn't a class on diversity that I know that ages me. I'm in the dinosaur times when I went to school. There might have been one class about diversity. And I'm really proud and happy to say that through 12 years at University of Arizona Global Campus, formerly Ashford, there has been an intentionality about weaving that diversity piece into every course. It's, yes, I teach a course that is devoted to diversity and social issues, but that piece is an ongoing part of all the courses at UAGC. So I'm really proud to be a part of this organization. And then lastly, number 6, recognize that the professional knowledge base is changing. And I think here, again, with going to school, looking at our society, things change. The things that were truths when I was in school are no longer valid. They don't work anymore. So we need to change with the times. We can hold fast to our beliefs and our convictions, but we need to recognize that things are changing. So some important figures to look at. Here's something that you can apply to your classroom. And again, just as we can't limit teaching diversity to only what we do in the classroom, I believe we shouldn't honor diversity only on certain days of the month. One of the activities I'm going to do today was my January activity because I did it for Martin Luther King Day. And now when I reflect, thinking, why do I have to do it just one day a year? I can present this any time of the year. And rather than, it's nice that we have Black History Month or we celebrate Asian Pacific American Heritage Month, but I believe a more effective and long-lasting method or strategy is to highlight the contributions of diverse people throughout the year. So these are some examples. So say you're doing a unit on space exploration. I just Googled different astronauts or people involved in NASA, and I came up with the 3 that caught my attention. Bernard Harris. I've never heard that name before. He was the first African-American astronaut. Pham Tuan, the first Vietnamese astronaut. And female Stephanie Watson flew the space shuttle missions, right? We don't recognize these names, but why not highlight them during our space exploration unit? Again, if we're doing any kind of art activity, Jamini Roy was an Indian painter, never heard the name before. Alison Lapper is a British artist who was born without upper arms and born with limited lower extremities. She paints with her mouth. and has such a positive outlook. Sculptures of her are in England. Yayoi Kusama, also a Japanese artist, nicknamed the Princess of the Polka Dots, right? Bring in these figures from different cultures, diverse experiences, life experiences, and share those with your students, because they're going to hear about the textbook figures year after year after year. Our responsibility is to teach them about some maybe people they haven't heard about, right? So think about your curriculum. Where could you infuse greater diversity? What activities do you do that could lend themselves to a broader perspective? So one of the areas where I tend to infuse, I love taking photographs of my students. So for classroom management, I take a lot of pictures of the kids, and that's why I came to the classroom today. So you can see, this is my high frequency word wall behind me, and it's in the colors of the rainbow, and then with the Olympic colors at the top, bronze, silver, and gold. And as students learn their sight words, they step up with these cute little shoes. And I have to tell you, I saw these sandals. They're coasters. Are these the cutest little things? I saw them at the Dollar Tree, my favorite store in the whole world, which is no longer $1, but hey, what's another quarter, right? And they came in packages of 6. And I left, you can't leave the Dollar Tree, because if you go back the next day, the stuff won't be there anymore. And I left that day thinking, I really don't know what to do with these. They're foam on the other side. And I kept thinking, and then it came to me. So I ran back and I got a set. I got 30 of them. And what I did was I bought construction paper in skin toned colors, which I don't have with me right now, and had the kids cut out their little feet. We put them in the sandals, and just the process of kids identifying their skin tone. And you can see this is a little bit darker than my skin tone because I'm very pale. Just that process of having kids look at something. I used to use peach and pink before I had bought the skin tone construction paper, and all the girls would choose the pink. And I'm like, honey, your skin really isn't pink. So they just like pink. And for a lot of my students, what I've noticed is because I have mostly Hispanic students in my classroom, they will choose the lighter colors because the families in our areas, it is not good to be dark colored, dark skinned. And so their parents cover them a lot and they tell them, don't get dark, which I think is just so sad. Of course, I grew up at the beach and I tried to get dark my whole life. But this is just one way as a management tool that I bring about that awareness in my classroom. And as you can see on my wall, we have all sorts of different colors that the students chose. So, and also a picture here. The other one is when kids learn to count to 100. I take their photograph and put it in the middle of their $100 bill. And again, just another opportunity. I'm looking up at my wall because I'm on my wall over there. Just another opportunity for children to notice differences. And again, I say notice differences, not emphasize differences. I want to show how we're alike. We're all alike because we can all count to 100. Fortunately, my current wall is a little bit more towards the top as we're getting to the end of the school year than the one that's pictured here. So again, think about ways that you can put your students' pictures up on the wall, and not just as a picture, but infuse that idea of how we are similar, how we are different, and celebrate those differences rather than show how they separate us. So another thing that I wanted to highlight is this idea of color mixing, since I had the theme of weaving. And as I said, I purchased skin toned construction paper, but another idea you could do, I sent my hubby out to Home Depot because he goes all the time, is just getting paint swatches of different shades. So I told him to bring, just get a variety for me because I used up a lot of the old ones. And, you know, when children, they will say, oh, he's black or he's white. So I do get black. And I said, honey, is anybody this color? This is black. And immediately they're like, well, no, right? Same thing with white. I'm pretty pale, but I'm not white. So just having them look through different skin tones. I've done this where they have done self-portraits of themselves, and then they pick one of the swatches, and I just staple it to their portrait. So you can see if you're getting ready to redecorate your house, just my husband just picked these up, and I said, yeah, find some skin tones. So he found some skin tones. Look at the variety. And isn't that beautiful? Wouldn't it be boring if we were all one color? So one of the activities that, the other thing that I did was also to purchase, I love how they call this people colors crayons. These are from Lakeshore, but these are more realistic people color crayons. So you can see in our regular box of 8 crayons. Here are the ones I give my kindergartners. It's not even the rainbow colors because there's no indigo in here. But even if I move up to the 16 box, there's one peach colored crayon. So teaching kids to press darker with the crayon or the colored pencil, or press more lightly, can give them different hues, mixing colors of paint, whites, yellows, browns, orange, until you get a realistic skin color is a really good activity. And of course, who doesn't like getting their hands wet in paint? I also recently bought skin toned paint. These, but I have to move them. I actually found these on Oriental Trading Company, and they work pretty well, but as you can see, this one is, I would pick this for my skin tone, but it was a little bit on the gray side. So I added a little brown, I added a little yellow, and these work real well too. And what I did was started off with literature, which is always a great thing to do, and read one of my favorite books, The Colors of Us. There's a link in the presentation for the book being read online, but you can easily find this book. So I'm going to read just a portion of it to you. This book is by Karen Katz. It was actually in the Scholastic book club several years ago. But this is a starting off point that I like to read to my students because they really tend to get it at any age level. The Colors of Us. My name is Lena and I'm 7. I am the color of cinnamon. Mom says she could eat me up. My mom's the color of French toast. She's an artist. Mom's teaching me how to mix colors. She says that if I mix red, yellow, black, and white paints in the right combination, I will have the right brown for a picture of me. The right brown? But Mom, brown is brown, I say. That's not so, Mom says. There are lots of different shades of brown. Let's take a walk. You'll see. We go to the playground where we see my friend Sonia. Sonia is a light yellow brown. Mom says, just like creamy peanut butter, I say, my favorite. Isabella is chocolate brown, like the cupcakes we had for her birthday. Lucy has skin that's peachy and tan. My best friend Jo Jin lives close to the playground. Jo Jin is the color of honey. 2 streets over, we meet my cousin Kyle. His skin is a reddish brown, like leaves in the fall. And so the story continues talking about different shades, looking at all the legs of the children in the park, and then finally ending up my friends leave and I go downstairs. I'm happy as I get out of my paints, yellow, red, black, and white. I think about all the wonderful colors I will make, and I say their names out loud: cinnamon, chocolate, and honey, coffee, toffee, and butterscotch. They sound so delicious. At last, my pictures are done, and I've painted everyone. Look, Mom, I say, the colors of us. So after reading this book, I bring out some colors because we love sensory activities in early childhood, don't we? I was at the store and I saw this coconut and I thought, oh, I bet the kids have never seen a real coconut before. So I got some of the thing. If I were in the classroom, I would put these in little bowls for the kids, but chocolate. I've got my ground cinnamon. I've got cloves. Just imagine the kids smelling some of these, maybe for the first time. Cloves. I have cayenne pepper. Let's not taste that one. I brought my honey. Could you see the kids comparing their skin tones with honey? Maybe you're closer to ground ginger. I have some fresh ginger at home too. There's chili powder. Oh, my kids would want to taste that one for sure. Got nutmeg. So some of these were mentioned in the story, some were not. Here's coffee, peanut butter, right? So having a little sensory experience and having the kids smell all the different colors and then compare their skin tones with any of these would be a really great activity, I think. And after we've done all that, you can see that my students, I did a lesson on realistic faces. Yeah, the eyes. I was telling the kids after they after they painted with the skin colored paints, we let that dry, and then we had a lesson on how to draw eyes. The eyes got really big. I tried to tell them about perspective, and one of the things is your eyes should go right where your ears are. So for most of them, they got that because a lot of kids want to put the eyes way up high. So it was an art lesson as well, but you can see in my picture, my students' pictures, they really embrace the idea of finding and mixing a color. And for a lot of these, they did mix the colors that they felt were closest to their skin tone. So these are some examples of what my students did. I would probably have them do next year. I'll do some different lessons on how to make faces a little bit better because some of these are scary. But we're in kindergarten, right? So it's all good. Lips are really hard, so that lesson was a little difficult. And then course, we did it all in the face all in one day. So it was hard to remember how to do the eyes and the nose and the mouth. So there are some examples of what my students did after that lesson. Also, I forgot to tell you about some other books. There are just so many books that you can find on diversity. This was also a book that I found in the Scholastic series. I haven't found it since, but I love this one. We are all alike. We are all different. This was written actually many years ago, and it was written by students. The publication date is, it's a lot. I've had this book forever, but I think you can still find, I have looked it up, but it is written and illustrated actually by students. So this is a great resource to have in your library, because it has the photographs of students of all backgrounds and then their illustrations or depictions of the same thing, and their emotions, and again, how we are all the same and how we're all different. It always asks a question: what color is your hair, your skin, your eyes? So lots of examples of different books you can use to bring out that diversity theme. All right, and lastly, which I kind of thought maybe this one should have gone first, because most of us do our Apple theme at the beginning of the year. But then, as I said before, this was one thing that I learned about this activity and was told, oh, do this for Martin Luther King Day because you can talk about different skin colors. But really, why not do it at the beginning of the year or throughout the whole year? So for this activity, I think you can see my apples over here. I'll get a little bit closer. Whenever you talk about apples, whether it's during the harvest time or anytime, apples are always good, right? We can talk about apples anytime. As you can see, I've got a variety of apple books. Welcome Fall, you could do it in the fall. We just had Dr. Seuss week in March. You could do 10 apples up on top. You could, there's a book here on apple counting. So you could do it as part of math lessons. Oh, and there they all go. So anyway, as you introduce your apple theme, or it doesn't even have to be a theme, you could just be talking about apples. I bring in 3 different colored apples. So I have a yellow apple, there goes the dominoes, a red apple, and a green apple. And I asked the kids, what are these? Well, they're all apples. They're all in the same category of fruit, aren't they? They're all apples. So then we talk about how the apples are the same. And actually, we talk about how they're different first. So I'm going to turn this a little bit. And as you can see on one side, I had, how about that? You could use a Venn diagram, maybe for the older kids, like I have here the yellow, green, and red apples, and you could stick adjectives in there as the students name them. For my students in kindergarten, I would just list on a board on my paper, and we would just go down. Let's look at the red apple, boys and girls. So look at this red apple. What can you tell me about the red apple? And they, at first, they're just going to say it's red. Okay, good, it's red. And I'm just going to go list adjectives. And what a great adjective lesson, right? What else do you notice about it? And usually they'll say, when they look at the other apples, I purposely got a red apple that was more oblong. So they will say it's not really round. Usually they'll say it's tall. So I'm going to write down all the words they say. It also has a sticker, because the more they observe, they're going to notice all of these things. Sticker is not an adjective, but I'm going to write down all of the things they observe. This one does not have a stem, so maybe somebody will notice it doesn't have a stem. I would probably get down to 7 or 8 things for that one. Now, my yellow apple, this apple actually is more spherical, and I would use that word, right? Sphere. So the kids will probably say it's round, and because I like to use math words, I would say, yes, it's a sphere. This one does have a stem. They might even notice it's kind of dirty at the top, or brownish at the top. And yellow apples usually have these brown spots all over them. It also has a sticker. So if you're doing a Venn diagram, you could put that one where those two, in that area where they are the same. It has a stem, so that would be a difference. And what else? Oh, this one's yellow. I probably should have done that so they were on the same line. It's dirty, and it has little dots. And then I would look at my green apple. It's actually the smallest of the three. It's a light green. You could talk about what shade of green this is. It's smaller. It doesn't have a sticker. It doesn't have a stem. So I would go on listing all of the ways that these apples are the same or the different from each other. And then I would cut open the apples. And I'm going to leave that one since it's rolling away. I would cut open each of the apples and show the kids, even though the apples are different on the outside, they're the same on the inside. They have a flesh, they have seeds, they have that little pocket where the seeds lay. Now you're going to have your smarty pants who say, well, they're not exactly the same color. Okay, but they're very similar. So we make the comparison, just like people, we're different colors on the outside. We might be bruised. We might have some stickers, tattoos, scars. But on the inside, we're all the same. We all have feelings. We all have emotions. We all get sad. We all get happy. And the kids really grasp this idea, no matter how young they are. They really take this idea to heart. And of course, as you know, if you've ever done apples in the classroom, afterwards, we've got apple tasting, we have applesauce, all sorts of activities you can continue with your apple theme. So I hope this presentation has given you some ideas of things you can do in the classroom right away, and just continue to weave diversity throughout the year. Don't dedicate just a month or a day. Every single day we can teach children to be kind and notice differences, become aware of differences, but embrace those differences and grow as a community of kind children that will grow up to be kind adults. Thank you for watching.
Laura, thank you so much. That was wonderful and so needed. And it just gave so many great and engaging ideas and activities that you can do. So thank you. I'm going to go ahead and stop the recording.